This time on Rat and Cat Search and Survival, Jason Koch tells how he survived after a large boulder fell on him in the Calistoga Palisades, California, crushing him and pinning him to the ground. Welcome to Rat and Cat Search and Survival, where we take a look at stories of those who have gone missing so others can learn how to survive. I'm Nakia. What would you do if you were trapped alone under a boulder in the wilderness with no hope of rescue? It's truly a nightmare scenario, but that's exactly what Jason Koch faced this last November. Jason recently shared his experience in detail with me over Zoom. Thanks for joining me here, Jason. You had quite the experience recently in surviving in the outdoors. Can you tell me about that?
I was flying my drone in the Palisades up around Calistoga in California, and I was flying it in an area where it flew behind a big rock, and it lost connection with my remote and didn't come home. So I was going to go hike up and find it. So when I went up there the day of, which was Monday, the 23rd of November, I left the parking area at about 3:30, and I got to the top of the Palisades by following some looks like old mining roads, and there's also a Palisades trail, and then I climbed up a steep area up over the very top of the Palisades. I pre-scouted it using my GPS satellite imagery, and found an area where I could go through cliffs instead of climbing over cliffs. So I get to the top, it's about 5 o'clock, it's getting pitch black. So I pull out my flashlights. I have a 600 lumen flashlight, and I have a smaller, cheaper flashlight that's similar. And I start looking for a pathway to get over to where I lost my drone. And so it takes me about 45 minutes to cross through the rocky area and crawl through the brush. I did stop and I ate a sandwich about, maybe 5:45 or something like that. And then hiked up a little bit higher, got to the area where I lost the drone and started searching. And so about 6 o'clock, there was a bunch of rocks, and so I was stepping from rock to rock, and there was one that was sort of shaped like a mushroom on the outside edge of it, and I stepped from that onto another rock. Now these rocks are built like this, not round like a big boulder like this. So when I stepped on this rock, it broke by dropping, and then it must have tipped like this. So when it broke, I fell off the top of it. And I remember, thinking, "Oh, this is going to hurt." And so I fell into pitch blackness. I can't see anything. And all of a sudden, I feel like a crunch, and I have a moment of disorientation. My body is spasming. My heart is beating really, really fast. I can barely breathe. So I was gasping. And I take a moment and I say, okay, you need to calm down and get control. And so I take and I relax, get my breathing under control. I'll slow down my heart rate. And then I start feeling around, trying to figure where I'm at, what happened to me. And so my left arm is trapped below me. My right arm is out like this, and I've got my backpack straps like this. And so I was wiggling around with my arm out like this, and this arm started falling asleep. And so I got to the place where it was completely numb. I couldn't feel it. And so I started shifting my weight, trying to figure out how to, relieve the blood pressure squeeze on my armpit here, and found a place where I could get that, brought the blood back into my arm and got the flow going, and was able to feel around. And with my left hand back here, I discovered my cheaper flashlight, I noticed that my 600 lumen flashlight had fallen further away from me. I couldn't reach it, but it was still on. So I had, light that was shining there. And so with my left hand, I couldn't figure out how to get it to my right hand. So I started flashing SOS with my flashlight. So I don't know how long I did that for, but um, it was a long time. I just kept, mentally, counting it out, going SOS, SOS. And then I had the realization that, this wasn't going to work. I'm on the backside of the Palisades. It's wilderness. There's nobody around. And at that time, I decided I would take a moment and pray and ask God to uh, help me, to guide me, and send an angel to throw that rock off of me. So, I, of course, am still trapped, and I've got to figure out what to do. And so I ask for wisdom, and I start, feeling around, thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, I need to come up with some goals here. And so I'm laying on my stomach, but I have my hips rotated, um, and and I've got branches that are probably like this big around underneath me. So I'm actually off of the ground where my hips are, but my chest and my head are pushed down against the ground underneath the rock. So figure from my chest, or I should say from my head down to my waist, the bottom of my waist, where my hips begin, I'm trapped underneath that rock. I can move my legs, and I know my legs are free. I can move them, but my legs are rotated side, or my hips are rotated sideways, so my legs are sticking out this way instead of flat. So I'm wiggling around, squirming, trying to find a position that makes sense or that feels right, that maybe will get me more movement and freedom. And I take a moment. I tried pushing. There was a rock to my right on the ground, and then of course the big rock behind me up above my head. And I tried pushing that, and it was not going to budge. It wiggled one time, and after that it wouldn't wiggle. But I noticed the rock on the ground wiggled. So I was reaching up. I grabbed a branch off of a tree, and I dug underneath my face to get the dirt away. I had a moment of like, panic, where it was like, oh, bugs. There might be bugs that might crawl onto my face. And then I laughed at myself. Well, this whole entire area has had a forest fire come through it in the last couple months. There's probably no bugs. But so I decided to get my face some movement and freedom. And I'm pushing myself forward and back and sideways, trying to get free and try to figure out how to free up myself. And I did realize the helmet that I'm wearing, which is a snowboarding helmet, is trapping me. The rock is pushing on the helmet here, and of course the ground on this side. So my first goal, I decided, was to get my helmet off, and my second goal was to get out of my backpack. And so I started trying to figure out how to get the chin strap undone. And it was like I could touch it, I could, but I wasn't really getting where I needed to. And I had to stop and tell myself, Jason, you're not trying hard enough. You've got to do something to get that chin strap undone, even if it hurts. So I was like, I jammed my hand up in there, was able to pull backwards and catch the clasp, and it popped free. And at that point I was able to push my helmet off, and then now I have extra room with my head, and I was able to see the rock beside me, and decided I would start digging under and around that. So I was digging around and it wouldn't move. So I stopped and was like, well, I'm gonna see if I can get my phone out of my right pocket. So I reached into my left pocket and I pulled out my keys that has a penknife on it, and I reached across, and with my left hand, so I actually had to, rotate my hips around to get to a place where I could reach across with my left, and cut the pants pocket open, and then I was able to reach in with my left hand, pull out the phone, and I transferred it over to my right hand, and I was going to try to turn it on and use it to make a call. And so I have one of those swipe pattern things that you put on your phone. I couldn't wake the phone up, and then I couldn't figure out how to swipe it when I couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
And I even tried, like 911 call, all this stuff, and no response from the phone. So I didn't have a protector on it because I'd been using it to control my drone with, and the protector made it so that the wire connector wouldn't connect in very well. So I took it off. So I decided to pause for a moment with the phone thing. I put it on the rock, and the second I put it on the rock, it slid away because it didn't have a non-slip case on it. So I was reaching for it, trying to find it. I couldn't find it. So I went back to digging underneath that rock. So I would dig all the way around it, underneath it, and I would try to shove the rock, and it wouldn't move. So I'd go back to digging, and eventually I was able to really push that rock into the hole that I dug. And at that point, I was able to bring my arms up and then crawl backwards out of the backpack. And when I did that, I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to warm up, and then I'm going to hike out of here. And so when I stood up and I tried to turn, I had pain in my left hip rotator, and it was enough that my body wanted to go into some kind of a spasm, and there was no way I was going to move. It hurt way too much. So I reached over, picked up my phone, and then I sat back down and made the phone call. And so about this time, it was 2:10 in the morning, and I called 911. Thankfully, there was connection up there, and they forwarded me over to, I think, the search and rescue fire department, and to the California Highway Patrol search and rescue team. And that team flew out, probably got there somewhere around 3 in the morning. One of the things with my phone was on the way up, I was listening to a story on Audibles. And so, I really ran my power down doing that. And so, that was a problem towards the end, was that I was down to 2% power when I was talking with the fire department people, and then it hung up. So you pretty much had to lay there and wonder, have they given up on me, or are they, trying to find a place to land? They didn't use their microphone on their chopper to talk to me. So the fire department actually had relayed messages back and forth between them and me up to the point that I had power. And they said that they're looking for a place to land. The guy on the phone told me to wave, to use my flashlight and wave until the guy on the phone says, okay, they see you. And then they were just looking for a place to land and then hike over to me. They had to actually find a flat spot to land, and then they were able to hike over. So it took them 45 minutes to hike over, probably close to 4 something in the morning before they got to me. and then we actually had to wait until 7 in the morning because they don't do lifts. They don't do, winches. They don't winch you up at night. It has to be light. So they put this lift seat on me and then walked me over, laid me down, and then eventually they started a fire and had a little fire going, and also wrapped me in a one of those space blankets, and so waited for another 3 hours until 7 o'clock in the morning, and then they had another helicopter come out and fly me down to the ambulance pickup area in the Calistoga fairgrounds. So I've been freezing cold, as I was having full body cramps, shivering, shaking, of course having a hard time breathing, and they took me to the Queen of the Valley in Napa. They did a whole bunch of tests, x-rays and MRI, and ended up that I have 11 broken ribs, and then they discovered that I had two other things. I had a high blood count that was affecting my kidneys, and I think that's called rhabdomyolysis. I'm probably saying it wrong, but rhabdomyolysis, or anyway, your muscles break down, and that breakdown floods your kidneys and could apparently kill you. So and then the other thing that they discovered was there was a tear in my aorta, and so they recommended that I go see a specialist, and the one they sent me to was at UC Davis in Sacramento. So spent a week in the ICU, well, 5 days in the ICU and another 2 in the less intensive care area before they discharged me.
Wait, so you didn't have to have surgery on that. You just had to let it heal.
Yeah, they basically are putting me on blood thinners, which is one of the reasons why I can't work, aside from the broken bones. I can't do anything that would stress the bones, and of course, if the clot, there's a clot part of the healing process, and if that breaks free, it could kill me. So I've got to keep it, low key, not exercise. I'm not supposed to lift anything more than 10 pounds, and just lay around waiting for it to heal.
How did they figure, or how do you figure that happened actually? What caused that rip?
That is something I've been trying to figure out. I'm gonna guess. So this is a battery. I always have my batteries in this position. So my backpack is on my back. So if this is my back, my batteries are like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that the 2 batteries that I had probably got impacted by the rock. And, and when it broke the ribs, the rib probably went down there and poked the aorta. That's the only thing I can figure out. The doctors didn't speculate, but that's the only thing that makes sense in my mind, considering where the aorta is located. So wow. It's like a 9mm tear, which isn't very big, but it doesn't take much to kill you. So
you were wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
What made you wear a helmet?
The steepness of the place where I was going to hike before 5 o'clock, there's not much to grab a hold of. There's no trail. Pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to be climbing up sort of a stream bed, and finding places where I could step from place to place. And my thought was, if for some reason I slip and start falling, I don't want to be, I don't want to hit my head on a rock on the way down. You see movies where people slip and fall, and of course, at the bottom of their fall, they hit something and they're unconscious. And I'm hiking alone, so I'm going to take that precaution. Got to protect myself. I did actually bring a rope with me in case I needed to tie onto something and climb down somewhere. That didn't need it, but it was there. So yeah, that's pretty much my reason for a helmet.
Do you think it looks pretty dented up? You think you saved your life with that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's two places where it's dented, one that's worse than the other. And one looks like when I fell off the rock, maybe the bigger rock came and hit me. And then so like I landed on the ground and then it hits me on the other side. So one was on the back and then one was on the side. So I'm not sure how it, hit twice, but so one could have just been that, there was an initial crunch and then there was the position where it held me in and, I couldn't move. Something like that. And then it might have actually been like, the rock itself might have moved before it stopped, moving. I'm not saying that right.
What kind of other survival gear did you have in your pack?
I had 2 bottles of water and the food that I brought with me. So and of course the hard thing is that I couldn't reach my water with a rock above me like that. I couldn't lift my elbow to reach back. If I was stuck there much longer, I would have taken my knife and tried to cut my water out of the backpack. But that was a really tough. I couldn't reach very far across from this side or this side, and this would have been impossible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Was they had the sandwich and the water, and the penknife, the flashlights, and my phone. Yeah, one of the things that you would so like you watch a movie and somebody gets saved by search and rescue. It's all warm and fuzzy. They warm them up, put them in a blanket. They should put them in one of those warm tubes and they fly them away. It's not the way it works. Not always, anyway. Maybe if it's down by the freeway or something like that, you might have that. But search and rescue, they put you in a sling that's covers your hips all the way up to your chest, and then you have something to grab onto. They don't bring a blanket. They're not there to warm you up. They're just to get you where they can actually extract you from, and that's pretty much it. So whatever supplies you brought with you, and maybe they brought water, but these 2 guys actually had a little kit with them. One guy had some matches, and there was some paper in my backpack, or toilet paper in my backpack, and they brought they pulled out a bunch of twigs off branches and stuff like that and started a fire, and helped me to get a little bit warmer while I waited.
Well, with your phone running out of battery and all of that, is there anything you would have done different or brought with you, or what?
I'd wrap myself in bubble wrap, and I'd bring a car jack. Okay, no, seriously though, my biggest mistake was that I didn't talk to anybody about where I was going, and nobody knew where I was going to be parking my vehicle, and the accessibility of my phone, it was really, really difficult to use. Of course, and the accessibility of water. I'm not sure that I would have been able to drink a whole lot with my head, pressed against the ground the way it was. Um, I mean, and the difficult thing is like, first of all, let's say that you're an independent person like I am. You're not thinking about inviting somebody else to come with you because most of the people don't have the physical fitness to be able to climb the way I climb. Um, and they don't want to be bothered. It's not their passion. They're not interested in, and I have no problem doing something crazy like that. It's an adventure, and when you go enjoy an adventure, sometimes you have to do things that are risque. I mean, I tried to protect myself and be ready for any eventuality, but I wasn't going to be climbing up through like a creek bed full of boulders that might roll. If I was doing that, I would have been wearing my helmet too, but I probably also would have, had like hiking poles, for extra balance, but this was completely out of left field. Didn't see it coming. So I think that it probably makes sense to actually have a different GPS system than just what's on your phone, and a written thing for at least 5 people to know where you're at, and maybe arrange for people to call you, and maybe those people need to reach out to each other as well. And after how much time do they need to call and report you?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the good things was that when I called search and rescue or 911, they sent me a text, and that text had a little program that turned on my GPS, and then sent back the GPS location to their system. And so they were able to actually fly out and find me a lot easier. So that was good. But definitely needing some sort of system where your voice can be picked up, and it can recognize you saying, call 911 or something like that, or call individuals or something. So the phone is good if you can actually if you have service, and if you have the ability to turn it on and get it to the part where it can actually pick up and understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But so like if it's off, so if it's off and you can't turn it on, it's not going to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
So and I have a swipe on it, so you have to be able to move that swipe the way you want it. And when you don't have room and you can't see the little dots to touch, you can't do it. So walkie-talkie might have been a cool thing. Yeah, the big thing would have been a partner,
Yeah.
but
Was there a moment, like what was the moment that was like the lowest point for you?
So after getting slammed down, I felt the heart rate. It was really fast. My breathing was really shallow, and it felt like panic. And at that moment, I had to, get control of myself. And at that moment, I also had a moment where I was thinking, I'm going to have to get myself out of here. There's nobody going to be hiking, nobody going to be coming along. So I had remembered at one point during this, I was thinking about that movie 127 Hours. The guy is out hiking and falls in a loose boulder traps his arm, and he has to cut his arm off. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just like that guy. I'm stuck out here. There's no way for me to communicate with anybody. This is all on me. I'm going to have to figure out, how to get free. And, so I have a choice of laying there and waiting for help. And in my mind, I'm analyzing how much time, and, so when I was looking at the aerial satellite views of the area, there's no obvious trails along the area where I was at. There are some roads, but they don't come anywhere near where I'm at. So the likelihood of somebody, coming by in a day or two is slim, and it's getting cold, it's freezing. I'm just thinking, I don't know how long I'm going to survive. So I have to make the best of this while I have the energy and strength and the mental capacity. I've got to do everything I possibly can now to get myself out of here. And that's when I prayed and set goals, and started working on getting my helmet off and trying to figure out how to get out of my backpack, and and also get my phone out of my pocket. So it's important to stay calm and not allow yourself to think negatively. You literally have to say, I have to do everything I possibly can, and I'm not going to stop trying. So I remember having a few moments where like I was a little bit angry with the rock. Like F you, rock. And when I got my helmet off, I was like, in your face.
Nice.
I got myself this far. I'm going to get out of this still. And there was another moment where, so while I was shifting myself around trying to get myself free, I had forced myself forward, and I think that I got myself even tighter, stuck underneath. And so I think that was when I needed to dig my face out. And had a moment of, oh, this could be bad, having the helmet hold me so I can't move my head. But other than that, I didn't really have any, anything that was really lower, other than, feeling pain, feeling how shallow I was breathing, and thinking to myself, if this is the best I can breathe, is there a negative side effect of this shallowness? And how long will I survive this way? Yeah. And so that led me to okay, you need to plan, and you need to keep going, don't stop, and just try everything you can.
Did you ever find your drone?
No. And that's I'm going to be going back once I'm healed. I'm going to look for my drone. I before all this went down, a couple of weeks before this, I had mailed in 2 other drones to have some work done on them. So my plan is to hike back up there and use one of my other drones to look all over the place up there to see if I can find where it's at. Around that pancake of rocks that I was videoing, there's some heavy duty brush on the north side of it. So if it didn't come home and it didn't think to fly anywhere else, it probably landed on top of all of that brush. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to actually fly over it with the other drone and actually see it and be able to figure out where to go to, get it. So it's a $1,500 drone. I'm not leaving it. So excuse me. My ribs.
Oh yeah. So how long are you off work then?
So 3 months. Yeah. So November 23 through November 23 is when it happened. So basically they told me after I was leaving the hospital, or when I was leaving the hospital, you're going to take 3 months off. So I'm figuring I'll be back to work probably in March. But I do need to go and have another MRI done to look at the aorta. So maybe another X-ray of my bones. So but yeah, 3 months is what they said. So yeah.
How much media attention have you had from this?
I'm gonna say somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 interviews, one with a newspaper guy, and then at least 4 with news companies.
What kind of medical bills do you have from this?
Yeah, so the medical bills are currently over 100,000. I think I saw it was currently at about 120,000, but I haven't seen all the bills come in yet.
Yikes.
So yeah, $18,000 a day for the ICU. And one of my ambulance rides was $16,000. It was I was like, wow. I had no idea that it could be this expensive. And I had insurance, and I hadn't re-upped my insurance when it needed to be re-signed up. So I was between insurances when this went down. And so basically I'm trying to figure out how to pay out of pocket to cover all my bills. And one of my friends from my, I take ballroom dancing, and when they discovered that I had an accident, they set up a GoFundMe account to help pay for some of these medical expenses. So
what's that account?
It's I think you look for help raise money for Jason Koch, spelled Koch. Okay. And so my guess is you go to GoFundMe. Not sure if you can just search it on Google, but I'll also send you a link.
Great. I'll include that in my video description.
Cool.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Here on Rat and Cat, we take a look at stories of those who have gone missing so others can learn how to survive. I want to talk a little bit more about a couple things Jason mentioned that could have decreased his rescue time and increased his chances of survival. First of all, make sure to tell someone where you're going and when you'll be back. Consider checking in at designated times. Jason also noted that he didn't have a satellite beacon. When you're out hiking solo, you can set your satellite rescue beacon to send your waypoint to your emergency contact every hour or even every 10 minutes. If you don't check in at a designated time, your emergency contact will know right where to find you. One reason Jason Koch couldn't use his cell phone to call was that he had limited access to his cell phone. When he finally reached his cell phone, he couldn't see the screen to unlock it because his hands were trapped, and in trying to get the phone closer to his face, it slipped out of reach. Things would have been different if the voice assistant was unlocked and activated. He could have used his cell phone to call for help. When hiking, consider turning off password protection on your phone and turning on your voice assistant. Also, try to keep your cell phone fully charged. If you're going to be using it for entertainment purposes, carry along a lightweight USB battery to keep it fully charged while in use. Most hikers don't include helmets in their gear, but knowing he was going to hike among boulders, Jason took a helmet and some rope. And it's one of the things that saved his life. Jason also carried 2 flashlights, one of which he used to signal his location once his cell phone battery died. In covering survival stories, I've noticed many times where people could have been rescued sooner if they'd had a flashlight, lit a signal fire, or even spelled out SOS with rocks or sticks. Even sadder are the stories of people who had a flashlight or cell phone but didn't use them to signal for help. But likely the best survival decision Jason Koch made was to take an inventory of his situation and make a plan. What about you? What did you learn from these stories? Tell us about your own survival story in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Nakia, and this is Rat and Cat Search and Survival. Get out there, be safe, and enjoy the wild.